Hello out there in the void. Back again. And, well, my good movie streak still hasn't lasted very long. But, well, there we go. Got one before dropping off back into Ant territory with Slender Man. 2018 film that, from what I've seen on reviews, nobody liked. Now, I went into this one without seeing too much on it, and I wanted to give it the benefit of the doubt. So, I tried my best to keep an open mind with this one. But, no. It's not as bad as a lot of the internet says, but it ain't good. Now, when you're going to be basing your horror movie off of a creepypasta or a meme, it's going to be hard to get that movie above, for my scale, 3 MacGuffins at best. So, everything I did see, I knew this was never going to probably be above a 3 MacGuffin movie. It doesn't even quite get there with me, but more on that part later. So, the Slender Man movie. Basic plot, because the plot is very basic, there's a group of teenage girls that, on a lark, summon Slender Man. And then they start disappearing. That's all there is to it. That's all the plot is. Now, with an entity like Slender Man, there's a lot of ways you can go. This movie tries to go several at once, but doesn't go all the way there with any of them. This is no Marble Hornets. Heck, this isn't even Mercy Black. Don't know if you know Mercy Black. That one's a much lesser known horror film. I pulled that one up on Netflix a couple of years ago. It was a much better Slender Man movie than this one is, without actually being about Slender Man. It was obviously inspired by it, but it's a much better overall film. Check that one out. Should actually get a copy of that one. Anyway. This one, the problems manifest for me right out of the gate. Now, first off, the character's dialogue is very... It's not that it's teen girl dialogue. It's that it's cringeworthy teen girl dialogue. It's the way the scriptwriter thinks teen girls talk. So they obviously make Twitter and Facebook references, and no. I mean, yeah, some people do talk like this to a degree, but the way they were, it was... watching them as a friend group, they came off as sort of obnoxious. The acting for them isn't bad once things start hitting the fan. And they do fear and panic and trying to desperately to get through this. They do that pretty well. I will give them credit for that. But when they're just hanging out, having fun at the beginning, no. But the pacing of this film is what I take main issue with. And how they just dive right in. Now, most horror films will have a decent lead-in or reason for whatever's happening. The characters will transgress or do something they're not supposed to, and things will get out of hand. Or there'll be a reason for whatever it is to be happening. This one's is kind of stupid. You weren't impressed either, were you? No. Anyway, so several of the boys at school are going to go hang out, and they're going to and they're kind of keeping what they're going to do a bit of a secret from the girls. So, our girls go to hang out and just drink vodka, because that's what high school girls do. So they're hanging out, and one of the girls says, I know what the boys are doing. They're trying to summon Slender Man. They're acting like this is a elementary school sleepover talk for what the high school boys are going to be doing. Seriously. So they decide, well, if that's what the boys are doing, we're going to do it too. And so they start looking up what Slender Man is online, because some of them don't know. And they're scrolling through, and they come across a link to a video called Summon Him. So they click it, and that's what happens. They start later on having nightmares and slowly being drawn in, and they've summoned him now. This is not even 15 minutes into the movie, and they've already just, oh, let's look at this video. It's like The Ring, but with no build-up. No, like The Ring, which has a very similar kind of thing of they watch something that you weren't supposed to, and now an evil spirit's coming after you. This one, in that movie, the character was investigating the disappearance of someone, or the death of someone near to her, is tracing her steps back and finds a video that, from what she can tell, I watched. So that's, and I had heard legends of this cursed video. This one that's just trying to keep up with the boys. I will say there were some decently creepy effects once things get going, but... So, a week after they watched the video, some of them have been having nightmares or feeling a presence. One of the girls vanishes. And then it becomes kind of a panic of where did she go, and trying to find her. Can we get her back? Should we try to make a deal with Slender Man? and they get some creepy messages from a girl that was messaging the missing girl. So there's some elements, like the conversations with her were creepy. There's a few other things that didn't work. The most effective scene was actually all the girls looking up real life videos of Slender Man on their computer, and just this slow shadow behind them just slowly grows up the wall. They don't talk about it, they just let it go. And that moment worked. And later on, as their perceptions are slowly being more warped, those scenes work by themselves. But as it ties into the greater narrative, they don't. That and the end scenes and some key character deaths are shown in the trailer. And two characters' plot lines are completely unresolved. Apparently they shot like death scenes or disappearance scenes for them. They're not in the movie. They're not in the trailer, they're not in the movie. This movie was hacked to pieces and then released into the wild without properly being edited together. Apparently, because there was the court cases around the Slender Man incidents with the girls trying to murder their friend to summon him about the same time this movie came out. Now, this movie had nothing to do with that event. They aren't doing anything inspired by that. This is a unique story that just happened to be released at about that same time. So, I believe the studio got a little worried about certain scenes and trimmed them out. And the movie definitely has suffered for that. Now, I do want to be respectful towards that event, sure, but the movie definitely paid a bit of a price for that. I don't think those scenes would have been enough to save it by any means, but the effects are very CG, but not terrible CG. It's usually dark enough that it kind of masks it a bit. So, the effects aren't too bad. And some of the creaky psychedelic freakouts that the girls have over the course do work. But pacing and some connections just don't work nearly as well. Like, the missing girl, I didn't realize she had vanished at first. Like, she's acting weird, then she seems to be staring off into the woods and as if seeing something there. Then it just does a quick cut and suddenly everyone's trying to figure out what happened to her. Like, at first it just seems like it's like dimmed, as if the light just suddenly has changed and everyone's just kind of hanging around, and then you realize, oh, they're calling, trying to find her. You don't realize how much time has passed very effectively, so it was a little bit of a whiplash for me to realize, oh wait, she's gone now. I guess. And the ending just doesn't pull together very nicely overall for me either. I won't go into too many details on it, but the motivations or reasonings for what the rules for Slender Man are not clearly explained, and for how the entity is supposed to interact. Like, they believe a few things, but either they have some misinformation or those things weren't enough. They just keep deviating from what they don't establish things well enough to even deviate from them. So the scope of what Slenderman's doing, his abilities, and what and ways to ward him off are not really explored. It's just it relies on you to have knowledge of Slenderman beforehand to even get anything out of this film. Otherwise, it's just some weird monster. So, and that's a failure on this movie's part also. Two MacGuffins, all I can give this one. I admit I was a fan of Marvel Hornets, and I mentioned Mercy Black. That one is a very good Slender Man-ish movie. I believe it was actually inspired by him, too. And some of the lore about it, I was into for a while. This did nothing for me, really. It really, using some of the things that the source material does give them a lot to work with, but they don't. They turned out a stock horror movie on an internet fad, and that's all this was ever going to be. This just trying to capitalize on what was popular at the time and churn it out. So, two MacGuffins, skip it.